Hey guys, welcome to A Little Help for Our Friends, the podcast for people with loved ones struggling with mental health. Little helpers, today we are doing an episode that I honestly cannot believe we didn't do years ago, given how fixated I was on it for most of my life. And that is high school popularity.
I did
Are
not know
you
you were
surprised?
no wonder why you're so excited. I was like, what's going on? You look a little too
Yeah, it's because you met me post-bachelor, which healed my wounds more or less.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Created new ones.
Yeah, ready to know it. So we're going to talk about high school unpopularity versus popularity, read a bunch of research, and then I think, just talk about our experiences and how it's affected us because I thought for at least a decade after high school about how it affected me. Did you?
I mean, I haven't thought about this in a really long time, so you will get my thoughts brainstormed and processed out live. So,
Yeah. Well, anything you want to say about Cool Mind? Helping unpopular kids?
yeah. Yeah, cool of mind if you have any, these emotionally challenging relationships or feel low self-esteem in relationships, struggling in general with a loved one with mental illness, we can give you skills and guidance for what to do and what to say to help your loved one as well as yourself. The simplest way I could explain it. But yeah, so if you just want to learn more how we could help, have any questions, go to coolamind.com, KULAMIND.com, and you could just book a free call with me to talk about what we do and how we can help you.
Cool. Well, I wanted to do this topic because, I mean, just in general, I think it's really interesting, but I don't even remember how I thought to do this, but I posted a series of polls on my Instagram that were like, if you were unpopular, or specifically uncool. I didn't mean necessarily like actively unpopular, like disliked, but like if you weren't cool in high school, does that affect you today? I had another poll about that too, but I don't remember what it was. But basically, a huge number of people said yes. Like, people are still really wounded over this like uncoolness thing in high school. I mean, the research is interesting. I mean, I think like research again, when you have these like gradated questions, like what is unpopular? Is that like no friends? Is
Mhm.
it like deeply uncool and disliked? Or is it just like you weren't the popular group, which was more me? It's you're gonna have different answers, but like essentially I mean, there's like definitely still effects in adulthood of, like your popularity in high school can predict a lot of things about you, um, in adulthood. Yeah.
Bad news for you teens having a rough time. It's
I
kind
know. Well, it is
Welcome
kind
to
of
adulthood.
concerning with the teen social experience being what it is today, which is essentially asocial. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think like so in general, you see like if kids were unpopular, and I think what the research was talking about was like actually unpopular. There's going to be all sorts of negative effects like depression and anxiety, stress levels, physical stress levels are higher for that population. Um, Lower self-esteem, lower social skills. It can be hard to tell sometimes whether this is correlation or causation. I mean, like there's one kind of pathway where it's like popular kids got a lot of social practice in high school. And so they had like an opportunity to develop social skills, and have like just like a lot of relationships, right? I mean, I didn't have a boyfriend in high school, but I at least had some dating experiences that I was able to build on, going into college and beyond. Um, Actually, more so in Slovakia. But if you don't have that, right, then like your first dating experiences might be in college, and then they're might be as successful as your peers who have already been dating, and then it gets pushed later and later and later, and it becomes more and more of a struggle. So there's that aspect. And then there's this aspect of like identity development and self-esteem, which I'm pretty interested in because I definitely think that my social status in high school like affected how I saw myself and how I would behave around other like high status people. Um, but I think like what's so interesting about this and why it has such like longevity, the result, like the effects of this is when you are in high school, that is your first experience of having like a social consciousness that's more or less developed. You're pulling away from your parents, and so your peer group becomes much more
Hmm.
important. And you don't have any other evidence about what kind of person you're going to become. So this is where that gets developed. So when I wasn't popular, I was like, okay, well, all the evidence I have about myself is that I'm rejected by high status people. I'm like not cool. I don't fit in certain ways. And I didn't have any disconfirming evidence like I later did through New York, The Bachelor, etc. And so this can get like really cemented in people's minds and then influence how they see themselves far longer.
By the way, you look really cute tonight. So
Thanks.
anyone, check out the YouTube episode version of this and look at she's wearing this nice little like plumping lip gloss or something going on. You
Hmm.
look really cute. Anyway,
Thank
just wanted
you.
to mention. I agree
Thank
with
you.
everything you're saying. I mean, we do know that when you're an adolescent, like 12, I mean, now it's like even earlier for kids, which is crazy. The like adolescence age has like gone down a lot. You know that?
Because they
Like
were
to
going
like
through puberty
10.
earlier.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's because
Yeah.
of obesity.
A range of cultural things, but um that's the first time that you attach to figures that are not your parents, right? So it's like you are, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, like what you're saying, identity is formed in our minds, like who we are is kind of like a mishmash of all these different experiences you've had in your relationships, right? Like, oh, my brother is strong and I'm less strong, or um, I'm loved, or I like people really like it if I, are kind to them, or really high achieving, whatever, right? So we
Yeah.
start to develop our idea of who we are based on our relationships, and that's such like 12 years old and up is such a formative time where you are like learning how to identify yourself in society. Like your first partner, right? Your first like major love or crush happens, and you start to like have attachment figures outside of your parents. So it is a really interesting, like critical time for figuring out who you are in the world.
When you think about how you saw yourself in high school, does it map on at all to how you see yourself now?
I don't know because I think I cared less about how popular I was. I think like it
Hmm.
didn't. I don't know if it was the function of my school being smaller or there was definitely like a hierarchy, but I don't think we cared as much.
Hmm.
Um, I I definitely didn't think I was like one of the, like the popular kids. Like I didn't identify that way. But I remember going to college and then people having a much different reaction to me, which is weird. Like in high school, I don't know, people didn't really notice me, or guys didn't think I was attractive, and I still dated someone, but it was only college that people started to treat me as like someone who's attractive and cool, and there was such a shift. But yeah, I don't like I wasn't popular, but I don't think I cared in high
I'm
school. What
always
about
amazed
you?
by that. I'm always amazed when people didn't care about popularity in high school. I mean, popularity was like, I mean, it wasn't all I cared about. I really cared about my grades too, but it was a huge thing for me. I pretty much got over it after my freshman year because I I went after it a little too strongly and wound up getting rejected by like my major friend group and went into this massive depression. And then my sophomore year, I was like, this popularity thing, not going to work out for me. I don't like people enough for it to work out anyway. And then got good friends. It's funny, like I emotionally, I think I saw myself as unpopular But when I really look back on it, I was probably just like a rung or two below the popular group.
Hmm.
So I did fine. And I think, a lot of this research, that's the thing, like a lot of this research is like this effects of not having friends on people. And that certainly wasn't mine. I think mine was just more like I felt I didn't have a certain status.
Right.
Because it's not even like the popular kids that I wanted to be friends with were like I don't think I was interested in them as people.
What defined, like, is this a school thing? Like, was there like a really clear cool group
Yeah.
in your high school? And like, what did it mean to be popular in your high school?
I went to a very classic American high school in West Virginia, and I'm trying like, okay, so there were about 1,200 students in the school overall, so like 400 in the class. And my school was very stratified
Hmm.
because I mean, I lived in a town that was a university town in West Virginia. So there was like the poorest of the poor kids,
Hmm.
and then like the doctor's kids. I mean, we didn't have any celebrities or anything like that. Like the Kibby went to the Gossip Girl school. So that's a
Yeah,
very different experience.
yeah.
Yeah. Um I mean the football players, cheerleader, they had some like level of popularity, but I remember there was like a particular group of girls that just did not want to accept me. And probably because I didn't have that much in common with them and I just wanted to be seen like them.
Was it like, imagine like Glee, the show Glee and all those like movies. Was it really like they were rock stars and they could do no like do anything they want? Or was it just like, there was a group that was like the hot ones?
Yeah. No, I don't think that, honestly, looking back on it, I mean, I wish I could go back in time and have a conversation with my 14-year-old self and be like, you're not missing out on anything. Like, everything these people have, you're gonna get in like 3 years and you'll be fine. I think my part of my issue is that I didn't go through puberty until pretty late. So I still looked very young until I was like 17. So I mean, I think what I wanted boys to like me. I wanted boys to see me as a high value target. Um,
So it was more about the
I,
sexual, like the
I
dating
think I
impact.
think it I think it had a lot to do with just like how I conceptualize myself. Like I needed to be the best. Like I had the same basic hangups with academics where I just couldn't get a 4.0 and I couldn't get into the Ivies and I couldn't get into Duke. And I was like, I guess I'm just relegated to being above average. And that was not good enough. And it was the same thing in like the popular group. I mean, I think to an extent, like we grew up with all of these these coming of age movies, all these high school movies with the parties and everything. And I wanted that experience. I've always been such an experience junkie. I just like
Mm.
want to taste everything. And like realistically, when I was a senior, I went to parties all the time. They weren't those kinds of parties, but in West Virginia, who knows what we were holding anyway? I mean, it's not like anybody had massive amounts of money. There weren't bands playing at any of these parties, I don't think. Um, so it's kind of, I mean, looking back, there was nothing I was missing out on, but I can definitely see how that shaped. Like, there are just some people that I will always feel uncomfortable around. And when I went on The Bachelor, it was like, I mean, that was exact type of people I was terrified of. I was like, I am
Mhm.
not going to fit in. I didn't do well in a sorority in college. So, like, that kind of high status, like, popular, pretty girl who's
Yeah.
just got all this confidence and like is a girl, I just don't know what to do with. Or I didn't know what to do with. I think now it's somewhat different.
Mm. What were your thoughts and like obsessions or fixations when you were in high school? Like when you were thinking about wanting to be popular or noticing this, would you be like down on yourself or would you be trying to look what or like fit in with them in some way or
Oh, Kibby, this is so embarrassing, but
oh
also
my God,
amusing to
so
me.
excited. Okay.
You should be. My first year of high school. Okay, so in middle school, I had these two best friends named Sam and Kate. Okay. Kate had been my best friend for a lot longer. Sam was kind of like somewhat new, but she was blonde, beautiful, blue-eyed, doe-eyed, like came from an artsy family, so she just like looked, she could take the best photos in MySpace. MySpace was the thing. You
Hmm.
got 12 photos, right? And Sam, that motherfucker, always had the best 12 photos. So irritating. I was always trying to compete with her 12 photos. Anyways, we formed a quote unquote sisterhood with our other friend Sarah. And we did things like we made a bag out of denim, like the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants kind of
Uh-huh.
deal, where we would like pass it around. And we put secrets in we like wrote down secrets on paper and put it in the handle of the bag. And then one of them tried to take her secret out and we fucking caught her. Anyway, put that secret back in. We had these like matching shirts that were totally shapeless and looked stupid, and we like all wore them. They were like different colors. We all wore them, and like, so the cafeteria had like three levels, and we like walked down the stairs, but in a horizontal line, like down the first level. It's pretty embarrassing. But anyway, we, Sam and I were kind of like the queen bees at
Hmm.
first, and
Hmm.
I was closer with both Sarah and Kate initially. Initially. But we all, Mean Girls had come out the year before. So we took our cues, or at least Sam and I did, from Regina George. And we changed our voices, we changed our affects, we just said bitchy shit to each other. If I look at my yearbook from back then, it's like I'm like circling people and being like fat, ugly, like how does she like blew this guy? And it's like terrible, like really
How did you
horrific.
talk back then?
I don't know if I could do it
Yes,
now,
you
but
can.
I don't. I'm sure. I'm sure a lot of like that's gay, like that kind of stuff. Um, I mean, like whatever the like little fucker said back then, you know? I mean, I
I
wasn't
was
good
not
at
expecting that. I was not. That just you're gonna say something about your hair. I don't know.
it. That's hot. I mean, Paris Hilton kind of like whatever.
Oh,
We're
that's
just
right. Here's something.
yeah, we're just mean. And we just talked shit about each other so like constantly. And then like Sam and I had the crush on the same senior boy, and like looking like why was he interested, especially in me looking like prepubescent? Made no sense, but he was. Anyway, I far
Mhm.
outpaced him in terms of hotness later. Um, but we just like, oh my God, I would like, his name was John. I would like have a secret conversation with John, and then Sam would have a secret conversation with John, but we pretended like we were telling each other everything. But then we would tell like Kate or Sarah the thing, then they would tell us and would get back to us, and it was just this like whole square of nastiness. Oh, we all made out with each other. Sam and I made out with each other first, and we like pressured Sarah into making out with us. I mean, it was just absurd.
I
And
mean, it sounded cool.
well, I got ousted, is the long and short of
Oh
this.
no.
I got ousted.
How'd that happen? Like Regina George.
Yeah, kind of. I kind of don't remember how I got ousted. I think part of it was over the John thing.
Mm.
We were just talking so much shit about each other all the time that it was bound to implode, right? But what sucked was that like I started out being closest to everybody, and then I got ousted, and then Sam became the official like queen bee. And she got so good at MySpace, and I was like decent at MySpace, but mostly I was just copying Sam's MySpace. And the top eight, this ruined my life. I mean, this was
Mhm.
a huge component of my depression was we all played games with the top eight, So like I'd be number one on Sam's and on Kate's, but then I'd be number three. And I'd be like, why am I number three now? And they'd be like, don't be dramatic. It's just MySpace, you
Ooh,
know?
God, that's why being a teen now with Facebook, like it's like all that social media to
You
really
know,
quantify all. Ugh.
I know. That top eight was a motherfucker, though. I mean, I remember I had this huge crush on this guy named Cody who, that made no sense. But I was like number eight on his top eight for a second. This is what I mean when I was like a rung below. And I was so shocked. I was like, oh my God. he thinks I'm his friend, like we're friends.
Mhm.
He never said anything about it. And then one day I was no longer on it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how to explain that phenomenon. But just everybody shifting each other around, who was their best friend that day? If you're a little bit mad at a certain, you just shift them down one or two people and they'll notice.
Wow,
They'll notice. So
brutal. How old were you? How old was this?
I was 14.
Wow, that would have been crushing.
Yeah.
I One of my dad's old favorite memories of me. He was so proud of this. I don't remember the exact event that he's talking about, but I do remember the general time. So there was a time, and I had a rougher time, I think, in like adolescence because
Um,
I was in an all-girls school, and yeah, it was just like a bunch of like strong-willed, you know, like 12-year-old girls are awful. Like to put them all in the same room for extended periods of time,
yeah.
they're just like it's brutal. So my dad said that the popular girls at some point, well, it was really sad because one of my best friends growing up, Marin, I hope I'm gonna make her listen to this, but she, we were like friends, right? Like playing video games and all that stuff, and then she started hanging out with a popular group, and that really hurt
Mm,
because it was
yeah.
she just kind of like was like ugh and kind of blowing me off, and I was like, you know,
Yeah.
like my best friend was leaving me. And apparently the popular girls came over to me and was like, we'll hang out with you or we just like give you a makeover or something like that. And apparently I said, go fuck yourself. And that was one of my dad's favorite memories of me.
Good for you.
I don't really remember. I'm sure it was like more complicated than that and like girls speak back and forth, but I think I do remember just feeling sad that my friend was gone to them and just
Yeah.
having no interest, but annoyed. I was just annoyed at like, they're waving the power and they were like, "Hey, Kippy," basically like devaluing me. I probably was like, "Fuck you." And no.
What was the what was the social capital or the resource that you were all currying for in an all-girls school? Because for me, it's very easy to conceptualize as male attention. I don't know if that's quite
Yeah.
right, but it's like the first thing that comes to
I
mind.
think that's one marker. I think that my friend Man also like I felt was like more popular because she especially in New York, a lot of the kids met in like we all went to all girls or all boys schools, but a lot of them would meet in Hebrew school. There's a big Jewish population in these
Mm,
these like New York schools. So they would all meet at like 13 and then start like kind of dating each other. Whereas I didn't go to Hebrew school, so I didn't know guys. So my friend Marin was like in Hebrew school dating all these dudes. And yeah, like she just like that probably like boosted her popular. I'm so sorry, Marin, if
that's
you're listening to this.
the most New York shit I've ever heard. That's so funny.
But we just wanted power. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the like you just felt the power amongst women.
Yeah.
Like
They're
one thing is
so
the attractiveness and ability to get attention and but it's also just like who could command the room? Like who's setting the tone, you
right.
know?
So there's some really interesting research that looked at like curvilinear data. So it wasn't just like basically it was looking at like a range of popularity and not just seeing like a linear correlation, like, you
Mm,
know, like as you get more popular, you get more pro-social or whatever.
right,
It was
right,
like
right.
at what points in this range of popularity is like pro-sociality strongest.
Hmm.
And so one of the comparisons they were doing was childhood popularity versus adolescent popularity. And they found that childhood popularity was more associated with pro-social behavior. So they're nicer, basically. And adolescent popularity was less associated with pro-social behavior. Mid-range, like average popularity was. So like those kids were nicer. But as you got more popular, you became more aggressive.
What the hell did you just say? Okay, let's break it down. If you were popular in adolescence, what
Yes.
happens?
If
You're
you
more
are,
aggressive later
if
on in
you are,
adulthood?
no, no, no. If you were average popularity, so like
Okay.
me, you are more pro-social. So you're
Okay.
nicer, you have lots of friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as you get more popular, so the really popular kids, they're more aggressive.
Mm.
And that makes sense because they had to basically keep their power.
Mm-hmm.
So they're more dominant, more, like this is how they have this sort of status. And this does seem to exist into
Uh-huh.
adulthood. An interesting thing is that the least popular kids in adolescence, no, I think this is actually in childhood, they actually then became more aggressive in adulthood, which isn't super surprising either. Because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, but that was kind of cool.
That that is cool. So wait, how do we understand that? So basically,
If I were gonna map on careers, the
mhm.
really, really, the really, really popular kids would be CEOs and doctors, and the average popular kids like me would be therapists and teachers.
Mm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Because they're
I
good
had
at.
a lot of friends. I just didn't have status.
Okay, that's what the confusing part about this popularity question. Is it a people who just like objectively have more friends, or in a social hierarchy,
Yeah.
or you perceive yourself, or this is something that you just say about yourself, like I felt popular or unpopular,
I have to
right?
look
Because
at
that
the
makes
data.
a difference. Like I wasn't popular, but I probably had the same number of friends as, I don't know, any other kid.
Yeah. Okay, so as hypothesized, adolescent popularity was associated with powerful and forceful behaviors and status indicators in emerging adulthood, such as proactive relational aggression, dominance, and influence.
Ooh.
Popularity in childhood and adolescence was measured by asking longitudinal participants and their classmates to nominate who were most popular and who were least popular within their
Oh,
classroom.
so they had to rate who were popular. Interesting.
Yeah, they could nominate all classmates, irrespective of sex or gender, but could not nominate themselves.
Interesting. That's a good study.
I know,
That's a
right?
really good study. Okay. All right. I'm in. I'm in. Um, yeah, I guess it's like what traits you develop like to get power. And I guess that makes more sense in adolescence versus any other time,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
to really dominate. That's interesting. And then have that be like an aggressive quality. I'm aggressive, but I wasn't I wasn't popular,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of interesting because we all think of kids as kind of mean, but I was actually popular for a year in elementary school and I did not even realize it. I had a clique. Everyone wanted to be in it. We rejected everyone. It was just for us four. And then this one girl, Morgan, she went to whine to her mom, and her mom was like, my daughter's being excluded. And we had to have this big, like, all the girls in the class had to stay behind during recess and talk to the teacher. And the teacher was like, there's a clique here that is not acceptable. It's over today. We're disbanding it. And it was my clique.
Oh
Yeah.
my
And I
goodness.
want to
It's so
be,
funny
yeah.
because I think we're probably like equal popularity, but you seem to care a lot. You guys were very embroiled. Like you I could hear the fighting for the social hierarchy in your stories. I was just like
I
like video
wonder if one of
games.
the reasons is that I had older siblings and I
Hmm.
was constantly comparing myself to their success. Like I saw my brothers were pretty popular.
Oh, okay.
And
How
so I
so?
was always and they were both very good looking in high school and they both I mean, they both got cute girls. Um Yeah, I mean, I just remember like I mean Charlie went to college when I was like 10, but they both had a lot of friends over. Like Andrew's friends were very clearly cool. Like they had very relevant contemporary senses of humor. They listened to the right music. They wore the right clothes. They had like a cute girlfriend. I mean, it was just like, kind of apparent.
Hmm.
Um, and And then my friends always thought my brothers were hot. They were always like talking about that. So I felt like I was in competition with my sister to be smart, and then with my brother, Andrew in particular, to be popular.
Wow. So the real high school popular unpopularity contest was in the Trumbull home?
Well, yeah, we had a lot of competitions going in the Trumbull home.
Maybe in
It's
your
funny
own head.
because my parents put zero pressure on me to be popular. I mean, my mom could not give less of a shit about that. She wasn't, I mean, actually, she kind of was popular. She pretended like she wasn't popular. She was kind of popular in high school, but she, like, my mom does not try to fit in with anybody. Like, if my mom is very take it or leave it with her. I mean, she knows how to get people to like her, but she would never have a vapid conversation if it meant being liked.
Hmm. So what did it mean for you guys to be popular? Like when like
Who's you guys?
you and your siblings. What
I
would
mean,
getting popular mean? Is it the
I,
power or is it the friendship? Because now that we're mixing, there's two different definitions, right? It's like people
right.
liking you versus being on top, which is very
No,
different.
yeah, I wanted to be on top. I had plenty of friends.
What did top mean? Like what would that mean?
I get invited to all the parties. Like there was a conspicuous lack of, for instance, Valentine's Day. There would be that. Did you guys have this, the carnation thing, where you could buy a carnation and like have somebody send it to your crush?
Mm-mm. Ooh, that's
I,
fun.
oh my God, I know. I wanted that so bad. Every freaking Valentine's Day, I'd be like, is this going to be the year? Is someone going to send me one? No one ever did. I never got like secret notes in my locker or like anybody, nobody from my
Oh,
school asked me to prom. I mean, I wound up going with my best friend Eric, who actually had another girlfriend. He went with me instead, but that's okay. I mean, it wasn't a romantic thing. It was just we'd agreed to it earlier. So, yeah, I just felt like I was missing out on a lot of like high school major
experiences.
markers, I guess, major events.
So then what did it feel like to get the popularity during the bachelor times?
Fucking amazing and also bad because I didn't get the popularity, but I got Kibby and I were talking
But you
before
got
this
the
about
like,
like,
oh my God, you were in The Bachelor. You still get that, right?
yeah, no, I think it essentially healed this part of me. Um, when I first went on The Bachelor, I had two competing thoughts. One was like, holy shit, I feel anointed by the universe. Like, I'm a special person. I get to be a special person. And then my second thought was, there's no way in hell I'm going to last more than 3 weeks on the show. Because I was like, I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those girls. Like the casting agents are in middle age, and I've always done well with much older people. So where I actually started to feel cool was in college, a little bit in Slovakia actually, because I was like the American exchange student who got a lot of attention, and boys liked me there. And then in college, when I started going to New York and was fucking my boss, like that, I was like, I couldn't get into the best frat parties at UVA, but like I was like fucking a rich CEO. So I don't know. I mean that was something I could
Hmm.
hold. Um, so yeah, but I was like, The Bachelor is the definition of people I that do not get me and do not like me. And so I went on and yeah, I wasn't the cool girl on The Bachelor for probably multiple reasons. One was that I did not put myself front and center. But what I did experience was that actually most of those girls did like me and they were really cool to me. Like no one sucked. And then Kendall comes like, carrying like four taxidermied animals under her arms. So I was like, wow, like who knew?
I guess these are all women who were different and who owned it,
Hmm.
right? Who are just like confident in like being a little weirdo and being different.
But also conventionally attractive.
Yes, that helps. Yes, they're gorgeous women. Yeah, that'll help.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like, what was it like to walk around afterwards and people be like, she was on TV. Oh my God.
Amazing. But you have to understand, like okay, it's so funny when people would apologize, like, I'm so sorry, I'm sure you get asked about this all the time. And my star is like, it's basically completely, it's like a red dwarf right now. I mean, whatever the one is like about to be totally dead, whatever. I'm like, no, if you want to make me feel cool and famous one more time before I sputter out, like, be my guest. Totally, that's totally welcome. But at the time, it was a combined thing, right? Where like all the people from high school started pouring into my Facebook friend requests. So that was awesome. I was like, reject, 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 reject. And then like I had a kind of cachet from that that you just get to have for the rest of your life, which is amazing. But I also had all my airtime wiped and people hated me on Reddit, and I was like,
Mm.
see, I'm not the right, like I'm not somebody that people broadly like.
Mhm.
So, and it was this thing where I almost got it. I almost got total redemption, where I was like, I almost was in the top four if I didn't have to pick my fucking job. Almost in the top four, like would have been. I've had hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers, and I would have been like, I'm a cool girl. And instead, I was not a cool girl. Yes.
What would your life be different? Like let's say, yeah, if you could like take the adolescent, you had another high school period
Yeah.
and the bachelor where you got to be like, you know, got to be like within the cool kids. What would it have been like if you stayed on that show instead of going to work?
Okay. I'll give you the idealized version and then
Yeah.
what's probably the realistic version.
Yeah.
The idealized, desired version is that I could step into any room with total confidence. Because I'd be like, I'm one of those people that everyone likes and admires and envies. And I'd be able to talk to any guy and any girl, and I'd be invited to everything, and everyone would be jealous of me. Yay. The probable reality is that I would have been sucked much more strongly into a toxic hierarchical system that would have chewed me up and spit me out. And I would have had
The
maybe a greater
marketing.
sense of cachet. Like I do enjoy that part, but like I mean the most tangible thing that I would have actually wanted was money. Like they just if I would have had 500,000 Instagram followers, I'd be a lot wealthier right now. So that would have been great. And there would have been cool opportunities. This podcast could be huge and etc. But I think just from the popularity status aspect, like what my ego wanted to heal was that kind of idealized, like, no, no one will reject me.
Mm.
Everyone will want to be me kind of deal.
Yeah, and I can
But yeah, I mean, I
imagine
think in reality, those people just get stuck in these hierarchical systems and they get pushed around,
yeah.
and then new girls come and they're more popular, and you lose your Instagram followers, and all this shit happens, right? I just had a more rapid experience of that.
Hmm. Wow. So funny that the tips from this episode is, yeah, just go on TV, go on national television, and that is a way to heal your childhood wounds.
Yeah,
Popularity. Just become
that
popular.
was what I
It works.
suggested.
It's great. No downsides, no notes. No, for the
Yeah.
rest of us who are not on TV, the research does show that if you, it's really all about how you understand your past experiences, right? Like if you internalize it like everyone beat me up because I'm a terrible person and they saw who I really was and everyone hates it, right? Then it would be like that would affect your self-esteem, right? The way you make it general to your whole character.
Hmm.
But if you're like, I mean, we just were different kinds of people, and those kids were kind of bullies. And, like I had some friends and I had a good time, right? So that would actually be a little bit more protective. But
Yeah, I mean, I think like first of all, research shows that even just having one close friend is very protective. So like
mhm,
if you're a parent, I mean, even just finding one friend to just like friendship to foster, just, do
yeah,
that. I think that saves you from like the worst of the effect. I mean, if your kid is friendless, that's a huge problem. Um, I mean, you can also do things like find online communities, Discord, I'm like known people who do that. I'm a little bit wary of suggesting that though, because I think it can encourage shut-in behavior.
yeah,
So I think that's a double-edged sword. Um, But yeah, I mean, if like realistically speaking, I had groups of friends
Hmm.
and I was never going to wind up with the really negative effects of the deeply unpopular kids
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I had plenty of friends, so that wasn't the issue. Um, but I think New York was extremely good for me. Basically, first going to college and understanding like college, there's no popularity. I mean, there's almost more wealth stratification at UVA. So there was like some sororities I was never going to get into because I wasn't like an old deep South like old money
Hmm.
family, but
Hmm.
whatever. Um, but it's just like finding whenever you're in a bigger community, there's more people you can find, and there's just less direct comparison.
Hmm.
So there's I think actually that's probably a curvilinear thing too. When it's a really small community, you don't have that problem. But then when it's like big like my high school, but not big enough like a college, you're going to see that
Hmm.
stratification start. And then when it gets even bigger, you can't see the stratification as much.
Yeah.
And then when it gets really big, like New York, you sort of see it. You know that there are elites, but they're not next to you. They're not sitting at the cafeteria table next to you unless you're Kibby and you go to school with Alexandra Daddario.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's just it is so interesting to hear how much this sits with you, like how this, yeah, this like really shaped your identity. It's interesting. I'm trying to think about like did how much did it actually shape my identity? I was mostly sucked into a relationship in high school, so
Mm.
I all my focus was in that we were like a tumultuous high conflict couple and we would fight all the time. So my thoughts were more about that. I didn't really, and we were in a bigger like friend group, but I didn't really care.
This was before the psychopathic dude?
No, that's one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did
Yeah.
you date in
So
college too?
a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I had mostly boyfriends. So I think I didn't really focus on the social like status thing. I was mostly focused on my relationships, I think.
Did you care about their status? Your boyfriend status?
No, but I cared about winning one person over. So maybe you cared about winning a group of people over, but I cared about getting that guy's attention. Whoever my crush was, I
Mhm.
wanted him and I wanted him to notice me. I didn't care what status or, all the other people around me, but I cared about that one boy.
The last time I had truly pure and good taste in men was in fifth grade. Shout out to Patrick Cushing. He knows
Mm.
this, but I had the biggest crush on him for like 1 to 2 years. And I liked him because he was smart and I thought he was
Mm.
cute and he wore this really cute yellow jacket. And then after that, all I cared about was status. So I will say like extracurriculars are huge too. I mean, I was obsessed with college, getting into the best college, also status. And I got a brochure in the mail that was like, "Hey, join us at Princeton or Stanford or Harvard or wherever the fuck, and for a politics summer camp." I had no interest in politics, but I saw Ivy Leagues, right? So I signed up
Mm.
instantaneously. And I went, and it was like the best summer of my life. And I met all of these other like Ivy bound kids, and we talked about like politics and philosophy. And then I came back to my school and I started a chapter. And then we as a chapter, we had like conventions with other chapters in Ohio and stuff. So I was popular there. So I was able to have this parallel experience where I was really accepted and like
Mm.
desired. And that really helped. So I mean, I think like if your kid is on the nerdier side, like have them join robotics club. They might be the cool kid in the room then, or at least, accepted with like-minded peers.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, I also think that like we don't know what this means in terms of parenting because like you could assume that maybe the popularity in high school is just a reflection of your social, like your attachment stuff, right? Like if
Hmm.
you're a little weird or detached or aggressive when you're a kid and people don't really like you, then or like some people who are on the spectrum or something who have a hard time with connecting to others, right?
Hmm.
They or like like higher rates of being bullied. And then, so they might have mental health issues in the future, but who knew, like chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but also, like, I wonder if you have like a stable family life of parents who you know who love you, right? Then that secondary attachment might not need to matter as much, right? Like you can kind of be weird, you know, you could be sad, but if you come home to parents who like are there for you and really see you, I think that probably would carry stronger over what
Yeah.
kids do.
I mean, 1,000%. I also think, though, that having really loving parents is going to make it infinitely more likely that you are a likable kid because you're going
Wonder,
to be able to form stable relationships and
yeah.
have a high enough self-esteem to present well. But yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, for if a kid with like has autism or something and just genuinely has like a social deficit, then I don't even know if they would care about status in the same way.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, it would be interesting to see what kinds of people care about status and which which don't.
I know.
And because again, like, I wasn't rewarded by my parents for popularity. I was for beauty,
Uh-huh.
but it's not like they cared when I went through puberty. I mean, that was all about like attraction for men.
I was way more interested in academic success. No
Hmm.
surprise there, right? Like being getting the highest marks and stuff like that and the best grades. Yeah, I think I would encourage my kids to have that attitude towards popularity. It's like enjoy the people that you click with and have like who are like good people who are into what you're into and like support you, then like fight for popularity.
Hmm.
Like I would try to teach Jackson that of like focus on the people who are like, who you really care about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, like, I mean, my brothers would always say, like, high school popularity does not matter, especially in West Virginia, especially if you have money in West Virginia. I mean, this is sort of a sad thing to say, but like, my life plan always involved surpassing most of my peers because most people are going to be stuck in West Virginia, whereas my family had the money to launch me into an out-of-state college and beyond. So, looking back on the popular kids now, like they're not doing so hot. And
Hmm.
I'm no longer super proud of that. I mean, like, I'd like it if people were just successful. I have no beef with them anymore, but that was just reality. Your situation was totally different, but I mean, it just sounds like you didn't necessarily need that anyway. Um, but I mean, when I gave up on the popular thing, that was just after my first year in high school. Like, I did not keep pursuing that. I think I wanted some carnations at Valentine's Day still, but I like I became one thing I'll say about myself, and I've always been like this, is that I would never not be friends with somebody because they weren't popular. At least I don't think that's
Hmm.
true. I was
Hmm.
friends with like people all across the spectrum. Um, and I just like leaned much more heavily into genuine friendships and then was genuinely sort of happy.
Hmm.
And got into parties and pursued JSA, the politics club, and everything. So I also want to instill that in my kids. But like, I really think for me, the big thing was that I was discovering who I was and I was getting information that I could not make it onto the highest rungs of anything. And that was like the real problem for me. And so I think with, yeah, my kids, it's going to be like you really have to believe me that you are not done developing and that one context is not going to give you very much information about who you're going to be in other contexts. So like,
Hmm.
please have patience. Let's get you into other contexts. It's,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in hard with my kids because I'm so worried about the asociality of today's teens. Um, but I mean, I'm gonna be setting up play dates out the wazoo.
Hmm. Hmm. So what would you say are different ways that people who are not popular in high school and it still haunts them? It still affects like no matter what, they might have good friends, they might have a good life, but they just can't shake the feeling that they're not cool.
You answer first. Do you have thoughts?
Um, yeah, I mean, I guess you could, rewrite the narrative, right? Like as we were saying that it matters how you see that past, right? Like
Mm,
maybe when you look back on the past and you focus on the times that, you weren't top 8 on MySpace,
yeah.
like your mind might fixate on those details, but then you might want to remember things like what were things that you did that you were proud of?
Hmm.
When did you have the best time? When were you like laughing so hard that you and your friends couldn't stop?
Yeah.
What did people like you for that did like you, you know? And are those, always the easiest one is, are those popular kids still popular, or
Oh,
did they
yeah.
like peak in high school, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually think that the research today is kind of helpful in this. It's like when we think about who's the most popular, they're not the most popular because, not even because they're the best looking or because they're the nicest or the most interesting or the smartest or anything like that. It is because they have higher levels of powerful and forceful behaviors,
Mm, mm,
you know? So like that's not necessarily a good thing. I mean,
yeah,
it can be adaptive in certain contexts, but also high popularity is a huge like it's highly associated with like risky behaviors,
uh-huh.
which makes sense, like really popular kids are giving each other
Right.
blowjobs and doing cocaine at like the age of 15. So,
Do you
um,
know that in New York, at these bar and bat mitzvahs, these parties that we used to go to when they were like when kids turned 13,
oh no.
kids are like giving each other blowjobs in the middle of like a dance floor.
Well, I mean, that is very impressive about the dance floor. I haven't even seen that in adulthood, but
Well, like there might be a chair involved. But what I'm saying is, 13-year-old kids giving each other BJ's in public? God, my
yeah, I mean,
stars.
that's
We
crazy.
would never do that.
But I grew up in West Virginia. Like, I remember in the fifth grade, like, kids were caught doing drugs in the bathroom. So, I mean, there was
Oh
all
God.
sorts
Oh,
of shit.
I don't want the
Yeah.
kids to go that far. But
Like, a lot of
we,
teen pregnancy and stuff.
what else do you do if you were not cool and you're like, oh, well, I always feel not cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, again, like, maybe the reason you weren't popular in high school was because you actually had really good traits that just they don't have mass market appeal. So, like, if we think of Proust, okay, the novelist, he has critical acclaim, but he does not have mass market appeal.
Hmm.
Like the best, the most smart, interesting, fascinating people are probably not going to be wildly popular in high school. So it doesn't necessarily say something bad about you if you were not the most popular kid in high school.
Yeah, you're just Proust.
You're just Proust, man.
Yeah,
That's pretty dope. In
I
fact,
like that. I
that's
like that mantra. I like that's a
yeah.
good closing statement.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, so like the people who were most popular in high school probably like, I mean, they probably had some combination of like forcefulness, dominance, aggression, some pro-social behavior, and also just like they liked the popular shit. There was probably an element of unoriginality.
Hmm. Mainstream. They were just basic.
Mainstream. Yeah.
So don't be basic. And then the other tip is go on national television
Go on national television, move to New
for being a
York.
cute girl.
So tips for if you are still suffering from low self-esteem because you weren't popular in high school. So yeah, I mean, I would say like really try to reframe what popularity actually probably meant in high
Hmm.
school. Um, I don't know. I think a lot of this is just like we build scar tissue over that wound that keeps affecting us even when it's no longer appropriate, right? Like you may just be holding on to something just because it was a wound that formed early enough
Hmm.
to cut you deep enough to build scar tissue. And so really working through that is possible.
Hmm.
Like it really might be irrelevant at this point. You could be somebody who has lots of friends, who has a partner, right? But the thing is that like, I mean, I can say this about me. I've said it, right? Like I lost confidence around certain people because I had beliefs about my likability or desirability around those people. And that might be the very thing that's keeping you stuck in this wound is your own belief, your own limiting beliefs about yourself and like what kinds of people could possibly like you or what fashion you could possibly wear.
Hmm.
That was another thing. Like I never felt like I could pull off cool girl fashion
Mm.
for whatever fucking reason. So, I mean, my advice is always to just like get disconfirming evidence, try new things. Like, invest in your look.
Mhm.
Like put, you know, get the blowout, get the makeup done, like buy the clothes you really want to buy and just try it out for a while. Like see what fits, but also see what you feel like natural in, and not because you're limiting yourself, not because you have negative beliefs and think you need to wear like a baggy t-shirt or not,
Mhm.
but because like, oh, this feels authentically me. Like what is going to make you confident? So I mean, I would say
Mhm.
invest in confidence.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. How we would say with our clients is if you were confident or you were feeling self-assured or whatever, what would you be doing differently? Right? And then just
Hmm.
act that like fake it till you make it
Yeah.
and then get on TV.
Yeah, and then go on TV.
Yeah.
And then be unpopular on TV, but still more popular than like most people that you went to high school with.
Or make a monkey meme that has
Oh,
now gotten 9 million views.
damn.
I,
That's amazing.
I think cool of mind. Look it up on Instagram. It's like regular posts about mental health and relationships, and one monkey meme I made that got 9 million views.
So I think what we're saying is keep chasing the dragon, like
Yeah,
keep going for
become
popularity.
popular.
Yeah.
That's how you could heal the problem of being not popular.
Um, yeah, I mean, but take pride in whatever makes you unusual. I mean,
Mhm.
I do feel like I've at least gotten there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is self-esteem is really how we understand, you know, a lifetime of interactions with people. How do like who are we compared to like in relation to others? And you could focus on the bad stuff, or you could focus on the whole picture, or you could focus on the good stuff. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, just asking yourself, like, I might not have been popular, but what was I proud of? Or what did I like about me as a kid?
Right,
Yeah,
right. Maybe you were too busy studying to be fucking popular, you know? Maybe,
studying, I was playing video games. I was, I don't even know. I was not cool. I was squarely not cool, and I think I didn't care.
yeah, I
I
mean
think
that I'm
I
interested in
enjoyed
that.
being a dork.
Man, what is that like? What is that like?
I don't know, it's really fun. You play a lot of Zelda.
Hmm.
Have like one or two couple best friends. Everyone's fussing over what they wear. I've been wearing the same thing since I was at, like leggings and a baggy t-shirt. That's what I wear all the time.
I
Huh.
mean, realistically speaking, if we look at a person who's 30 years old and if they weren't cool in high school, but they've got friends now, like it's like they're holding themselves to the standard of when they were definitely at their least cool, because every high school student is at their least cool in their entire lifespan. I mean, it, maybe some people, oh, I guess that's not true. The people who were really popular and then take a nosedive, this doesn't apply to them. But in general, like people who are have a basic level of flourishing now, when they were in high school, they were actually kind of a loser, right? They had an adolescent sense of humor. They thought really dumb shit was funny that wasn't, they were trying to fit in all over the place. Like that's what you're blaming yourself for not being successful in. And the people who didn't like you, like that's what we're concerned about.
Mhm.
Like those people who now follow their trajectory and they're probably not cool.
Yeah.
Um, that's what you're holding on to versus today when you have like people who love you and value you and will fly to Portugal when you're not even getting married to support you,
Yeah.
all of that. So, um,
Good reframe.
thank you. Thank you. So I didn't actually mean any of that stuff I said, and I do want to be popular. So if you want to give us mass market appeal, feel free to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we'll see you next week. By accessing this podcast, I acknowledge that the hosts of this podcast make no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast and any and all content or services available on or through this podcast are provided for general, non-commercial informational purposes only and do not constitute the practice of medical or any other professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and should not be considered or used as a substitute for the independent professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment of a duly licensed and qualified healthcare provider. In case of a medical emergency, you should immediately call 911. The hosts do not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such a